Many of our college students are 18, 19, 20. It's their first time to vote. And so there's the special challenge of they're not yet in the system, so we have to make sure they're registered or they know how to register in the polling place. They also haven't built that lifelong habit yet, which is something that really helps propels Minnesota #1 in the nation status of being the highest voting state in the nation. So getting young people to say, oh, this is a new thing, it's part of my adult responsibility, it's part of adult life. We try to find ways to make sure that it is very welcoming and that they feel some excitement. So that's one thing. The second thing is that there are special barriers that young adults face for voting. For example, many of our servicemen and women are young adults, and there are extra barriers for people that are in military service, especially if they're moving around or they're overseas. So we have to tackle that. Young people are sometimes in school and working 2 jobs, and so they're very, very busy, and they may not have their own car, or their transportation may not be the kind of easily accessed so they could just run to the polls and back. So there are special barriers to young adults. We have to think about how to make sure they know that if they're going to be busy, they can use absentee voting. Or absentee voting in person is a way for a busy student who knows they have to be in class and at work, they can do that. But I think the third thing is making sure that our candidates are talking about the issues that excite, that are of interest to young adult voters, because if there is the perception that young adults aren't going to be going to the polls, a candidate might think, well, then I just need to focus on Medicare, Social Security, things that are perhaps of interest to older voters. And if that happens, then younger voters say, hey, nobody's talking about issues that I care about, why should I care about voting? But if candidates are talking about the issues that are important, that resonate with young adult voters, everything from college tuition to the economy to gas tax, I mean, whatever it is, addressing those issues, then young voters can say, oh, this is about things that matter to me, and that can help build the kind of interest so that a candidate goes, oh, I need to be addressing the issues that are of concern to young voters, I need to be listening to young voters, I need to be involving young people in my campaign. And so if we can really tackle that first-time voter experience and get young people brought into the system, if we can make sure that we tear down whatever barriers that might be, especially facing young voters, and if we can get our candidates to be talking about the issues of highest interest to young adult voters, those 3 things, I think, can make a huge difference and narrow that gap between our older voters and our younger voters. Minnesota's #1 in the nation for voting by far, but we still have a gap. Our younger voters are not quite up to that same level as our older voters. We need to tackle that disparity and narrow that gap.